Hello and welcome to this presentation all about the four doctors, your health and vitality inner guidance system. So within this presentation, we are going to learn all about the four doctors, where the theory originated from, and we're going to get to meet the four doctors as well. They are Dr. Quiet, Dr. Happiness, Dr. Diet, and Dr. Movement. So where do the four doctors come from? They've actually got roots in ancient Greece. So there's a very wise philosopher named Hippocrates, surmised that in order for the ancient Greeks to maintain a good level of health, there were three doctors. So for three physicians: happiness, quiet, and diet. So living in accordance to what makes us feel happy, getting enough quiet time and rest time, introspection, and what kind of foods are we feeding ourselves. Now, back in ancient Greece, there wasn't so much of an issue that there is today in terms of sedentary lifestyles. So my mentor, Paul Check, who you can see just below here with some of his rock stacks, introduced the fourth doctor, Dr. Movement. So Dr. Movement is all about what kinds of movement do we need to keep our body, mind healthy and in a good place. And he took the Hippocrates three-doctor system and added the fourth doctor of Dr. Movement. So to start off our exploration, we're going to talk about Dr. Quiet. So Dr. Quiet, in short, is all about our rest time, our introspection, slowing down, giving our bodies the time and space needed to rest and recover. So Dr. Quiet is a yin principle, which is a feminine principle, because it's all about slowing down and replenishment, which is in line with the yin principle, because yin energy is all about building energy, whereas the yang principle is about dividing energy. Now, you need to have energy on board in order to spend it. Otherwise, you go into the energetic deficit or the overdraft, in which if you stay there for too long, some sort of health problem will arise. Dr. Quiet is synonymous with the water element. So water is being calm, restful, relaxation. And yeah, like I say, rest and relaxation, everything's slowing down, quiet, everything that involves resting, quiet time. So essential for our recovery and repair. Now, you don't get stronger in the gym. You actually get stronger when you rest. So the process of getting fitter and stronger, we talk about building muscle, we go to the gym to destroy the muscles or create damage in the microfibers of the muscle, create these tears. So then within our rest time and with good nutrition on board, we can then recover the muscles and they grow back stronger. Now, if someone is overtraining, so too much Dr. Movement, then they're just going to deplete the body. So again, too much training without enough rest, and you're going to go into that energetic deficit. So essential for growth of the body. You know, if we think about when we sleep as well, it's the time for the psyche to repair itself. Because, you know, if we don't sleep, this eventually again depletes the body. Human beings need quiet time to balance out the activities of the day. Otherwise, we run ourselves into the ground. Quality sleep is essential for our health. It's one of our 6 foundation principles, and sleep is the best medicine. So whenever someone's recovering from serious illness or health condition in hospital, what do they prescribe above all else? It's bed rest. So taking that time for the body to heal and rest itself, recover itself. The body will struggle to recoup itself if it's always in a place of activity. So Dr. Quiet is about slowing down and balancing out the activity of our day with inactivity of sleeping or doing exercises and practices that are also conducive with relaxation, such as meditation practices. So many different ways to meditate, which is all Dr. Quiet activities. You could be doing some zone exercises, Tai Chi, sitting meditation, standing meditation, guided meditation, many ways, different ways to meditate. Just sitting and breathing, focusing on the breath is also a very powerful form of meditation. So we need to become still and we need to become quiet in order to reach that place of introspection, touching that place inside. because if we are too busy to go, we never actually get time to sit by ourselves, to be with ourselves. So, which is an essential part of being a human being. I'm a big fan of encouraging people to actually have certain times throughout the week where they actually do nothing at all. This is an essential part of the release for our psychology. And yeah, synonymous with stillness. So, we've got a nice picture of sunset, a beach at sunset. And it's in these moments of stillness where we can really appreciate the world around us and the beauty of the world that we live in. If we're rushing around all the time, we aren't able to stop and enjoy the moment. So Dr. Quiet is chief of the physiology, while Dr. Happiness is chief of the psychology. So chief of the physiology is basically meaning that in order to keep our bodies in a good place, we need to rest. So if a person is suffering from some sort of health condition, then it's often Dr. Quiet that we go to first, especially if that health condition is caused by the person being too yang, too in the masculine energy, too stressed, too go all the time. So in order to balance oneself, going to Dr. Quiet to start cultivating some stillness is absolutely essential. So moving on to the next doctor, Dr. Happiness. So Dr. Happiness is all about, in short, doing the things and living in a way that brings and cultivates happiness to our lives. Now, Dr. Happy is a yang principle, a masculine principle. The reason why Dr. Happy is a yang principle is because it takes action and effort to create happiness. Happiness doesn't just land on our lap. We need to be contributing to our lives and participating in our lives in order to create happiness. Dr. Happy is synonymous with the air element, which is also tied into the mind. So this is the chief of the psychology as well. So, keeping the mind and emotional system in a good place is conducive with Dr. Happiness. Doing the things that make you feel happy. So how powerful question to ask yourself is, how often am I making time to do the things that make me feel happy? So for me personally, I need to spend some time each week playing my guitar to stay in a really good place. If I manage to play my guitar every day, then it's a different kind of week. It really is, So Dr. Happy is all about following our dreams and goals. So having a clear idea of what we're moving towards within our life, the one love, having a vision for our lives, our health program, even our day, setting daily intentions around what we want to achieve, and living in a way that we're always following a dream. So again, this is why Dr. Happy is a yang principle, because we need to take active participation in order to follow our dreams and goals. Dr. Happy is very much the domain of self-development and growth. So Dr. Happy and Dr. Quiet work quite well together in that respect, because we need to do certain things to develop ourselves, but also a massive part of our self-development is also getting still and reflecting, which is Dr. Quiet. So also part of our self-development and growth comes with looking at the different patterns of our minds and seeing whether they are serving us or not. 90% of our thoughts are negative, and this is a survival, inbuilt survival reflex in order to keep us safe, because if we're thinking negatively about the world around us, then we are doing our best to avoid danger. Yet this negative thinking often isn't conducive with our happiness, because the negative thinking comes from when we lived in tribes, and there were very legitimate dangers to our survival all around. We could have been eaten by something, or another tribe could have come and attacked our tribe. So it paid to really think in a negative way. But in our modern society, we don't have so many, let's say, threats, legitimate threats to our survival. Instead, our threats mostly come from, okay, do I have enough of money? Are my relationships in a good place? And it's working on ourselves and Dr. Happy in order to get to a place whereby we are living conducively with our values, so that we're able to give more to our careers, more to our relationships, and ultimately more to ourselves to create that happiness within. Dr. Happy is all about creating our legacy as well. So the legacy is the overarching principle thing that we are working towards in our lives. So the thing that we'd like to leave behind us when we go. So for some people, it's raising a happy, healthy family. For other people, it's making a mark in the business world. For other people, it's helping to improve the planet in general. For everyone, it looks different, and the legacy is very much our soul's calling. There's a Japanese island called Okinawa, and this island has the highest concentration of centenarians in the entire world. So a centenarian is someone who lives above 100. Now, they did some investigation to find out why this island, over all else in the world, every other place has the highest concentration of centenarians. They attributed it to two main things. One, their good diet, lots of seafood. And secondly, that they all set out to find something called their ikigai, their purpose, their reason for being, their reason for getting up in the morning. And they surmised that it's constructed of four things: that which makes you happy, that which you are good at, that which the world needs, and that which you can be paid for. So when all four elements come together, this creates your vocation, your ikigai, or your legacy, that thing that you want to leave behind. So when we're living in line with the things that help us bring our legacy further towards us, we are generally in a happy place, because ultimately what was creating this high concentration of centenarians was purpose. So when they've conducted numerous studies as well and found that those who live with a sense of life purpose live longer. You have more of a reason to be here. So Dr. Happy also, you could say, is probably the most important doctor, because he directs the other three doctors in terms of what they're doing. Now, if you're not happy, then it becomes difficult to create other things within your life, such as health. So he's the chief of the psychology, keeps the psychology in a good place. Dr. Happy is also related to rhythm, pressure, and flow. So the rhythm is the rhythm of our lives creates a certain pressure, which creates the flow of our life. If the rhythm is chaotic and all over the place and maybe going too fast, this creates too much pressure, which then disturbs the flow, and we often end up burning out. If the rhythm isn't fast enough, the pressure isn't high enough, and then we also go too far into the yin and stagnate. So Dr. Happy is the chief of the psychology and is directed by living in accordance with our values that lead towards a dream. So moving on to Dr. Diet. So Dr. Diet is a yin principle. So we're back to the feminine. Now, this is because the diet and the earth element, these are the things that nurture us. Feminine energy is concerned with nurturing, the nurturing energy. Dr. Diet is linked to the earth element, as all of our food ultimately comes from the earth. It's a domain of what kinds of nutrition are we putting into our body? What do we put into our body to make us us? You know, every single cell in our body is made of something that we once ate. Each different aspect of our body turns over in terms of its cells. The tongue is the fastest, so the tongue is a completely new tongue every 2 weeks. Every single cell in your tongue basically recovers and replenishes and replaces itself every 2 weeks. This is why our tastes can change so quickly. Bones take the longest, so it takes 7 years for a bone, or all of the bone cells within, let's say, the humerus to fully replace themselves. So where are we getting this replacement cells from? It's coming from what we eat. So if you eat a poor diet full of processed foods, maybe fast foods, McDonald's, this kind of thing, this is literally what you're going to be made of next week. So for that reason alone, you know, I find it like really, really good shout to be looking at and consulting Dr. Diet as much as possible, because food is medicine. Food can be our greatest poison, or our greatest medicine, or our worst poison. So Dr. Diet is also about the hydration of our system. Hydration is incredibly important for cellular health, cellular energy, energy transfer. You know, if the cell is hydrated, energy can make its way in the form of electrons into the cell in a much more effective way. The electrons spin something called the mitochondria, which is like these cellular batteries. They then produce something called ATP, which is energy. Now, if you're not hydrated, you can't get as much energy into the cell. Hydration is also key for flushing the body, detoxifying the body. So my mentor, Paul Check, always says the best solution for pollution is dilution. So hydration is incredibly important for detoxifying the body, as is nutrition, because just by flipping to an organic diet, the body will naturally start to detoxify itself. So nutrition and hydration are 2 of the 6 foundation principles, 2 yin principles. So again, if someone is suffering from, let's say, a lot of stress or health problems going too fast, then it's consulting the 3 yin principles of sleep, hydration, and nutrition as a first port of call to start balancing the systems and biochemistry of the body. Food and drink is life force energy. So all foods vibrate at different frequencies, and the body vibrates at a certain frequency. So if we are eating high frequency foods, then we're feeding the body the electrical information and biochemical availability of this energy that it needs in order to produce a lot of energy. If we're feeding the body like dead foods, then this food vibrates a lot lower, and this will actually take life force from the body. So a McDonald's, for instance, will vibrate at 0 to 5 hertz, whereas kale, which is some of the most highly vibrating food, vibrates at around 86 hertz. Let's say the human body is 50 to 70 hertz. If you eat kale, which is a higher hertz rating than your body, you're going to raise the energetic output of your body, the life force. If you eat McDonald's, you're going to lower it. I was talking to a client very recently who said that they had a McDonald's and it actually made them feel really bad, mentally, emotionally, energetically. Now, if we are eating dead foods, then the body actually has to expend energy in order to digest it, because 50 to 70% of the calories that we eat are actually having to be taken during the digestive process. So if we're eating poor quality foods, then the body that don't actually give us any nutrition, the body actually needs to spend nutrition, spend energy in order to digest those foods. So it robs you. Also, certain foods are completely nutritionally devoid. So say a lot of the time, if you do eat at McDonald's, about an hour later, you're hungry again, because the body is calling for nutrition that the poor foods haven't given you. So this is also the building blocks of the body. There's a big difference between eating an organic chicken and a non-organic commercially raised chicken. You'll often notice that with the organic chicken, once you cook it and try and pull a leg off, it's hard to do that. You're going to make a mess because the tendons and ligaments of that chicken are extremely strong. If, however, you have the commercially raised chicken and you try and pull the leg off, sometimes the whole thing just falls apart, because the tendons and ligaments aren't strong. So the organic chicken has had space to roam around, eat a more natural diet, whereas the commercially raised chicken has not necessarily had enough space to move around and stay healthy. So the chicken's not getting its doctor movement, and it's fed poor quality food. So then that's what it's going to be made of. Now, if the chicken is eating poor quality food, and as a byproduct being of a poor quality makeup itself, if you're going to eat that chicken, what do you think that you're going to be made of? And in respect to the tendons and ligaments, tendons and ligaments of our body hold the body together. Lower back disc injuries are incredibly common. So what's causing this? Could nutrition be a part of that? Well, very potentially, because if we think towards the commercial chicken that virtually falls apart when you pull the leg off, if you're eating a lot of that, that's what your tendons and ligaments are going to be made of in turn. So having a good organic diet full of whole foods that haven't been tampered with is essential for our cellular health and our entire makeup. So Dr. Diet is also about how we nurture ourselves as well. What are we doing to nurture ourselves? Are we nurturing ourselves in the best way? Are we burnt out and stressed all of the time? Are we giving ourselves what we need? How can we nurture ourselves on a greater basis from day to day? Really, all four doctors are about nurture, because the four doctors are about what do we need to give ourselves in terms of what we need to keep ourselves happy mentally, emotionally, how much quiet time we need to give us, what foods do we need to give ourselves to maintain a great level of health, what kind of movement can we nurture our bodies with to keep the joints and muscles healthy and the cardiovascular system in a good place. Doctor diet is also about what we consume on a day-to-day basis that is not always linked to food. Now, you eat with your eyes and you eat with your ears as well. So a lot of the time we are maybe consuming media that is negative in polarity. We're watching the news a lot, which the news is, how many times have you watched the news and felt better for it afterwards? We're consuming a lot of social media on a day-to-day basis. So, you know, they've done studies finding that after just 10 minutes of being on Facebook, anxiety levels in the group of people being studied went up. So you could call social media sort of like a form of processed food for the mind. So whatever we're surrounding ourselves with ultimately is ingested by the psyche and the subconscious. So it's, what are we surrounding ourselves with? What are we choosing to watch? Are we choosing to watch films and movies and documentaries that are empowering and feed good positivity into our lives, or are we watching maybe this kind of like reality TV shows, violent films, and you know the news which is loaded with negativity? So all goes into the psyche, and then forms our subconscious, our beliefs, our values, our perceptions. So over time, due to our diet, this will form certain perceptions, either that the world is a nice, empowering place to be in and is a gentle, loving place, or the world is a harmful place. So what kind of perceptions do you want to cultivate based off of what you're choosing to surround yourself with and consume on a day-to-day basis? So moving on to Dr. Movement. So Dr. Movement is a Yang principle. So again, in the masculine, because Dr. Movement is all about activity, movement, action. He is synonymous with the fire element. And it's all about movement of the body, but also movement of thought. So in terms of the body, we need to move our body to maintain a good level of fitness, keep the cardiovascular system in a good place, keep the muscles and joints also in a good place. Joints love movement to keep themselves lubricated and healthy. The nervous system loves movement. Movement keeps our nervous system primed, keeps our nervous system resetting itself all the time, and keeps muscles active, keeps the structure of the system strong. If the structure of the system isn't in a good place, we're going to develop some sort of postural maladaptation. If the posture is in a bad place, this then affects the mental emotional system. So our posture and structure will directly affect our Dr. Happy. So in this way, all of the doctors are completely inseparably linked together, as the four elements are. So being fit and strong feels good. Being fit and strong keeps us moving towards our dream and goal, especially if that dream or goal is athletically based in nature. But also movement is a key component of keeping ourselves just generally healthy. You know, a lot of people resign themselves to the so-called fact that we get back pain when we get older, but is this necessarily true? I would beg to differ. It's, from my observation, generally what happens when people get older is they start moving less. When you start moving less, the structure of the body starts to dilapidate. When the structure of the body starts to dilapidate, then it can't hold itself together, and some sort of pain is going to show up in the weakest link of the chain. So I tell my clients that one of the main reasons why I train and exercise and keep myself in a good place movement-wise is so that I don't have to have back pain in 40 years' time. You know, it's for me, it's very much about enjoying a healthy, long life, free of pain, which the movement that we do now is conducive to the reality that we experience tomorrow, next year, 10 years time, 40 years time. So movement is such a key component of helping us live our best lives ultimately. So Dr. Movement is also about movement of thought. Now, sometimes we can get in a bit of a funky place within the mind and the emotional system. Remember, 90% of our thoughts are negative in orientation. So as humans, it can be quite easy for us to get into funky thoughts. So Dr. Movement can be employed to move those thoughts. And, you know, one of the best things to do if you're feeling in a difficult place is to move the body, because the mind and the physiology, mind and body are one. So if we're moving the body, then we're also moving the mind. There's such a strong link between exercising and better mental health. That's not to say that, you know, we get a negative thought and, oh, I need to move to get rid of this thought. It's like, no, the negative thought is there to show you something. So it's acknowledging what there is to learn from this negative thought pattern. And if any pain is being created by that, it's a message from the pain teacher that something needs to be addressed. And then once we've acknowledged what is potentially causing the negative thought pattern, then we can start to move out of it. So Dr. Movement is movement of thought. Dr. Movement is also working in versus working out. So even though Dr. Movement is a yang principle, we can move in a yin way. So utilizing such tools such as the zone exercises, Tai Chi, Qi Gong, any sort of rhythmic, slow moving exercise, yin yoga, these are all ways of moving that replenish the body. So we are an electromagnet created by the heart, and all of our tissues are electrical in nature as well. If we move in a very slow, rhythmic way, twinning that movement in with the breath, we actually have the ability of charging something called the piezoelectric current within the body. And this brings more energy into the cells. We also have certain ways of moving that can also bring energy and life force towards the organs to help support the organ health healing. Now, when we're in a fight or flight state, the blood is sent to the arms and legs, whereas if we're in a rest and digest state, yin versus yang, then the blood flows more towards the organs. If the blood is flowing towards the organs, then this is conducive to help their healing process. So also working in can help us to build energy that we can then spend by working out. So working out might be going for a run, going to the gym. You know, we all know what working out is synonymous with. And working out is what we need to do in order to stress the system to the point whereby we can get fitter and stronger. But as previously mentioned, if we don't have enough energy on board, and talking to Dr. Quiet enough, we're not going to get strong from the training that we go through unless we're balancing that with our rest. So looking towards the two forces module for a greater explanation on this. Dr. Movement is all about transformation as well. Fires of transformation. What movement do we need to take to transform our lives? What do we need to transform? What do we need to burn away? What isn't serving us? What do we need to move within our lives? Dr. Movement is all about rhythm as well. The rhythm of our life. Are we going too fast, too much, Dr. Movement? Or are we not going fast enough? Are we too sedentary within our lives? Again, back to two forces, it's all about balance of energies. The last point on Dr. Movement is that here's the domain of the 4 stages of conditioning: flexibility, stability, strength, and power. So flexibility is keeping our body flexible, keeping the muscles primed, keeping the fascia in a good place so that we have mobility and then we're able to move through our lives in a place of good balance. A body that is flexible is a body that is also powerful and unrestricted. So much pain can be traced pretty much solely back to someone's flexibility or lack of. Stability. Is the body stable enough to hold itself upright? Is it stable enough to perform the athletic tasks that we want to do within our training careers? Is it stable enough to perform our work lives, our work tasks? So if you're a fireman, for instance, you may need to have to run through a burning building, which will create which will need a lot of stability. If you're a manual laborer, you're going to need the right kind of stability in order to potentially lift all day long loads that, if the body isn't stable enough, may create a back problem. Flexibility and stability within the context of a program. We can usually develop these two aspects in the same phase. This is most of the time the first phase of conditioning. Strength. Are the joints strong enough and the muscles strong enough to perform the tasks and loads that we take them through? So, you know, if you are a mother with back pain, for instance, and you might have had a new little one, as the little one grows, do you have enough strength on board in order to carry that little one and be able to pick them up without hurting the back? On the other side of the coin, if you're an athlete going for a certain strength and performance goal, what muscles do we need to create more strength in? What muscles do we need to create more strength in order for the system to maintain good posture? The fourth phase is power. So for a tennis player, the power phase may be improving their serve, highly explosive movement. For a deadlifter, it might be doing a 1 rep max lift and how much weight they can lift in that short period of time. If it's an elderly person recovering from a hip operation, their power phase may be hopping off of a step, for instance. Even though this isn't, let's say, a maximal deadlift for that person, may be a really big deal because, you know, the biggest killer of the elderly is through falls. So an elderly person, if they were to go for a conditioning program, needs to be conditioned within this power phase so that if the situation of a fall is presented, they're able to catch themselves before falling down. This is the power phase. So within a phase, within a program of conditioning, it's imperative to go through all 4 phases of flexibility, stability, strength, and finally power. So here's a visual representative of the 4 doctors in relationship to the Tao, the yin yang. So we can see on the left, Dr. Quiet, Dr. Diet are the yin principles. Dr. Happy and Dr. Movement are the yang principles. So balance is the currency of life. And as we spoke about in the 2 forces module, the best and most effective way to achieve any goal in the shortest period of time. So my question is, if balance is the currency of life, how wealthy are you? And how can we use our 4 doctors, our 4-legged stool of health, to create more balance and therefore more wealth in our lives? So thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation on the 4 doctors. They are a great way to navigate through your health and fitness journey and are essential for creating a very strong place of health, vitality, and well-being. Thanks for listening.